Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back to the saadcast. We're here for episode 12 with Bob and a new host in Natural. We've lost Sale from the podcast due to his personal reasons and things that I'm not going to go into. But from now on, we're going to be trialing Natural, and hopefully, he'll become the third host of the podcast. So I'll let Natural introduce himself, and then we can go and get into the podcast with Bob.
So I'm Noah. Most people on the internet know me as Natural. I've been in the comp scene for around a year now. This December would be a year. I started off on my most notable team is probably Arnhem Academy. We played in leagues like SCL. We were in ESA when ESA was good, but we're gonna talk about that now. We didn't place that well in SCL. We were like middle pack to middle last, so that wasn't that good for me. But I've been in LFT land for a bit now, so I'm just exploring the comp scene, seeing what I can do, see how many teams I can interact with, and yeah, I'm just chilling right now. So yeah, that's basically me. Yeah.
All right, Bob.
Nice. So you got to go through a couple scrims here on the saadcast before they know if you're the perfect fit for the role.
Exactly.
It's a tryout.
It's a tryout. Yeah, exactly. We'll see how you do. Check, get your frags. That's all you could say. So
Yeah.
yeah. So hello everybody. My name is Bob. If you don't know me, I mean, a lot of players, at least some players, probably know who I am at this point. At least ones that have participated in the events that we've ran so far. But if you don't know me, I run Rainbow Six events for a company named Nerd Street Gamers. We run events for basically all sorts of games, but our largest being Valorant. And I pretty much head their Rainbow Six stuff as well as do a bunch of other stuff with the company. But yeah, so we've been running monthlies, big 2.5K monthlies every month. They're like a weekend event, building into a invitational. Now the invitational was originally going to be in January, but we actually had to move it due to a conflict of interest, perhaps. I mean, basically, we're moving it to the end of February because it does conflict with Ubisoft's invitational, but it's more of like a positive way, because I just think it gives us more time to also like build out what that event was going to be, because there are a lot of different people looking at that event now. We've been partnered with Dark Zero, or no, with CCS on these monthlies. So now, a lot of other companies and organizations and stuff like that are actually reaching out to us looking to, hop on this invitational and everything like that. And then even the scope of that invitational is changing. So, even giving us that extra month going forward allows us to just expand on that even more. Because even with all of our monthlies, and so instead of that, we run 2.5Ks every month, every month. So the January now is going to be like a last chance qualifier into that invitational. And that's going to be a 5K last chance qualifier. So that'll be January. It's actually going to be a 3-day. And now the funny thing about this is too, right? Because this is something that I would love to talk to everybody about as well at some point on here, is the formatting of tournaments and how that affects players and everything. Because I mean, everybody here has been a player at some point. But yeah, so that event is going to be January 9th through the 10th, or actually like the 8th through the 11th, actually, or 8th through the 10th. I'm sorry, it's like a 3-day event, 5K. The biggest thing for us is always trying to get exposure out for the players, multiple streams, trying to get as many people on stream as possible, try to get as much money to players as possible, just make it worthwhile to play this game in general. So we are doing like a last chance qualifier, then have this crazy invitational at the end of February and everything like that. I come from a background of a player. If anyone that used to watch this show, I was talking to the guys here. If anyone used to, still watches the saadcast here, like former fans and everything, or current fans, people that watch it. Sale, the former host, I used to team with him. I was actually the IGL of a team way back when, probably like a year and a half ago at this point, longer, but we played for a very long time together. We went by the name Spitfire, and like Astraeus was before that, and then we went by like another team name, a couple different team names as like, the roster changed a little bit around. But I played with them for a very long time. That was probably like some of the most fun I've ever had playing this game. But then even past that, probably around season 2 of Rainbow Six, I was like running just, your average Discord tournament and things like that. And that's like where I come from. So, that was my first foray into esports was Rainbow Six. That was I always played some Counter-Strike like and Overwatch and all those kind of games, but it was always like more for fun and stuff like that. And then even when I played Rainbow Six, I always played it for fun too. Like I was a big fan of New Vegas or of not, Fallout. I mean, it's a great game, but of Rainbow Six Vegas 2 and everything like that. But so I thought that Siege was going to be, what was it, Patriots or something like that? It was supposed to be or something like that. So I thought it was going to be this sick single player thing that had the multiplayer tacked on. It was like all an only multiplayer thing. So even back in alpha and stuff like that, my buddies and I would only play Terrorist Hunt like as groups on realism, and we would just play it like super tactical, like breach and clear, like all this kind of shit, like going in like as if we're playing Arma or Squad and stuff like that. And like it was always so silly, and it was the maps were like these like super intricate houses and all this different stuff. It was like impossible to play this game. We never dreamed of playing the game multiplayer. And then a buddy of mine named Quentin, he hops, he's like, yo, you guys play this game, you have like hundreds of hours and you only play T-Hunt, like what the fuck are you doing? And so he's like, we got to play multiplayer. So he loads us into the multiplayer game, and we're like terrified. Like I remember I was just playing Frost at the time and like put down like the traps and stuff like that, and I would just hide in the corner, and I was just terrified of anything that was going on. I couldn't control the recoil on the guns, and like now like that's crazy to think, like before, like can't control the recoil on the guns in Siege, like are you shitting me? So so like and he would run around the map and just murder everybody. Like he would just kill everybody, and I would just be like all in awe. I was like, how do you do that? And so then all of us, I would just like start getting more engrossed in the game, and I would start watching the Pro League, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much more to this game than I would have like ever known. And like it just starts opening up all the layers, and then you start watching all the pro players and all the credit like Bolo and stuff like that back in the day, like and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, I never knew this stuff was possible. And you learn the call outs and all this difference. It becomes, and that for me was like my first competitive game as well. So that was like all this stuff where it like hit, where I was like, damn, Siege is like the greatest game of all time. Like in my mind, I love the game more than anything. But then it was also like my eye-opening experience to just like, damn, like competitive gaming in general is fucking awesome. Because I come from like high school sports, and I really dropped off, just played a bunch of like single player games, stuff like that. And then when Siege came out, I was like probably a freshman in college or like a senior in high school or something like that. And that was when it was in alpha. And then I was like, damn, like this is the shit right now. So that was like, that's probably like my entire journey. And then I started running Discord tournaments like after I started getting into it competitively. Started playing a shit ton then tried out on some teams, got on that team with Sale. All this time I was just working with Nerd Street Gamers, doing contracting work at LAN, film, photography, running tournaments, things like that, traveling across the country. And then got a full-time job, and now I'm here. And that was probably like a year and a half ago. I've been working full-time at Nerd Street, so that is my story.
So like you have a job like within esports. That's just awesome on its own.
Yes, thank you.
So do you have like, is your job like with management, or are you more like with, I guess, I don't know. What does your job like entail, if you don't mind me asking? Like,
yeah, no, sure, absolutely, right. This is a great conversation. So I actually do a couple different things. So I manage a team of we have like a team of TOs. So we have like a TO program, right, where you can join this if you are somebody who likes video games, you play a ton of competitive video games, and you're looking for like a start in esports or something like that, right? So you can join on, you'll get paid hourly to come on, run tournaments, train to learn how to run them, etc., and eventually either go like full-time at the company or be able to just have that on your resume and go somewhere else, right? Because, for instance, like tons of companies now are running esports programs, or at least are, you see all the time things are popping up for, hey, tournaments are coming up. Everyone and their mother is running tournaments for things now. So, those jobs are definitely there. They're going to continue to be there. So, what we want to do is just train people up. So, I manage that team of people that we basically are training and are working, so like just hourly employees basically. But then also on top of that, I do a lot of stuff when it comes to like our rule books for all of our games, our formatting for games, like how to run our games, events and stuff like that. I do a lot of paperwork for the company.
You do the
I
boring
do.
stuff.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's video games. I don't think it's really ever boring. I would rather hop on and just write like, a X page document about something, and as long as it's about video games, it's still kind of cool. So at the end of the day, I can't really complain about that. But yeah, then I also just run all the Siege stuff as well, and do a bunch of stuff. But we have like a lot of divisions within the company. We have like teams that handle partnerships. We have teams that handle broadcast. We have teams that handle, I mean, and like live broadcast, we have teams that handle post-production work and stuff like that, like all of our socials. We have our marketing team. We have our financial team. I mean, we have our software and IT team because we run a platform for, ticketing all of our events and signups and registrations and stuff like that. So we have a lot of, like, that's the thing I think that people maybe don't necessarily know or have access to that information, is that there are a lot of things that you could do in esports, no matter what it is that you like doing. Like, and that's the thing that I would always say, take what it is that you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and then just look for what you could do at a company in esports. I mean, I'm always a big believer of like, follow your passions. You know what I mean? So, if you like coding, you could just go code websites and software for, companies involved in esports. I mean, there are tons of different options that you could get into that are probably like unknown because, people just no one knows about it,
Yeah, 100%. I think it's awesome. But yeah. So that was a great introduction. Thank you very much for that.
Mhm.
Now I think we're gonna get into like basically what this episode is going to entail. We're gonna talk about this week in T3 Siege. The big thing that happened this week was the CCS Grand Final, Aerial Arise versus Wichita Oblivion, and Aerial Arise, if you don't know, won 3-1. And everyone on Aerial Arise is just so talented. Like, I believe that when they all turn 18, they are all destined for T2, T1 Siege. They're all so good. Like, specifically, if you want to highlight somebody, I think Gunner is just incredible. He was the highest rated player, I think, in CCS. He's just so incredible. Another great outstanding player would be Max. He only played like 2 months of comp experience or something like that before he played with Aerial. Maybe it was just that. Maybe it was just the 2 months, but he had little to no comp experience, and he ended up playing in the CCS Grand Finals and just absolutely did
Smoking.
so amazing. Yeah, he did so well. So Aerial Rise, just so much talent on the team. Kool-Aid is amazing, and yeah, they played amazing. I think they dropped like 2 maps the whole like tournament, I guess, or the whole season. They played absolutely incredible. So, props to them. Wichita Oblivion played well too. Just Aerial Rise is just so good. I wonder if they'll stick together. I don't think they will, since I think their age differences are a little too much. But um,
I mean, each
yeah,
one of those players are so individually talented that when you put 5 of them together, they make a really great team, which is why they're able to win CCS. But like you said, when they turn 18, I'm assuming they're not going to stick together simply because they're so good individually that they don't need a team on their back to make it. Like, they put teams on their back. They don't need a team on their back, if that makes sense. Like, they don't need other people to succeed. Each of them are so individually good that they can make it to the top level of play without needing other people. So I'm assuming they are going to get picked up for T2, T1 Siege when they turn 18. But for now, they made a really good name for themselves, all 5 of them,
for sure.
by winning CCS. So.
And since more teams are like starting to pick up like those young gunners like NJR, Iconic, like those younger gunners, I think like once they do turn 18, it is really likely for a team that is struggling in Pro League or in Challenger League to pick up one of these astonishing players from CCS, because they were beating ex pros in this league, and I mean that makes a name for you. So props to them.
I do want to ask the question, like, what would happen if so there's two open spots in NA Pro League right now. There or NAL. There's like the North American version or the US division. So there's the United spot, and then there's the United spot they said was rent freeze if they like were to find an org, and I'm pretty sure they're finding an org. But it's rent freeze, and then there's the tempo spot. I don't know who they're giving the tempo spot to. Like I really don't know. Um, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if they're gonna let a team be orgless and play in the U.S. division. But I don't know, because it's looking more like we haven't seen many orgs come in versus orgs drop out. Like we've seen orgs dropping out of Siege like fast, and it really makes you wonder if Ubisoft was really making the right decision for their game in making this LAN league in Vegas or whatever. I don't know if there's like money in it on their side, but I know like especially orgs like United and Tempo, they weren't really winning anything, and they're in the like stage 2 of the pilot program, and just I think they were losing money, like especially with like COVID and stuff, which really like hit them hard. So I think it's just a really situation for them. But we do know that they disbanded because, like, moving into our next topic, the Sonics, they dropped. Like, we haven't talked about this on the podcast because we haven't been on the podcast in like a while. But if you don't know, if you're living under a rock if you don't know, but Super is the only remaining member of the Sonics besides their coach. It's easily Gomfi, Sleben, and Iconic were all dropped, and Super was actually streaming the invite calls yesterday against like the silver teams, and it was Super, Rexin, creators, and Dream. So it's what are your guys' opinions on
Wait,
that?
who's the
Like, how
fifth?
do you what?
Who's the fifth?
I said Dream.
That's four.
Super, Rexin, creators, Dream. Who
Is
am I
it
missing?
Grixer?
Oh yeah, Grixer. Yeah, Grixer. So yeah, what are your guys' opinions on that?
I mean, if you watched 6 on 6 with Super on it, so like that's Intero and Canadians podcast. Super,
That is like the greatest podcast of all time.
that is
Like
facts.
that podcast is so good.
Yeah, they are a good podcast.
So if you watch that,
I mean, next to the Sodcast, of course.
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
I think we're next to them. I think we're number
yeah,
two.
yeah, we're number
Nah.
2.
Sodcast number 1.
Oh, that's facts.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, we try our best. Yeah, absolutely not. But yeah, yeah. Going into like, what are your guys' opinions on that roster? Like, do you think that roster has more potential than what easily Gomfi, Sleben, and Iconic were already doing? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
So like back to what I was saying, if you did watch the 6 on 6 episode, you saw Super talk about how there was a difference in ideology between him and the org, and the 4 other players that were dropped from the roster. They didn't have like the mindset of winning, is what he said, I think. And they kind of just went about it like an I don't care fashion, and like they had the job and they weren't willing to fight for keeping the job. So I think the Super claimed that the org dropped them because of that. So if Grixer, creators, Dream, and whoever the 4th is, I forgot. But if that new 4 does have the mindset
Rexen.
that's Rexin, if that new 4 does have the mindset that they're looking for, I do think it could be a really good roster because they're equally talented players. It's not like these players are any worse than the 4 that they had before, if not better.
Yeah, I think that it comes down to a lot, and this is like even to double back on what we were talking about before with the CCS and the T3 players, right? is that mindset is like the biggest factor when it comes to going pro. I think that's like the largest divider between, and this is not only with Siege, right? This is with any major competitive thing that you are participating in, whether it's like a physical sport or an e-sport or what, or your job or college, like whatever it is, like you have to have that mindset to be in it, to win it. Like that's definitely a thing. And so I understand, and I'm sure that a lot of people, that if you come from the player perspective, understand that as well. Who wants to dry run and who wants to VOD review and who wants to do all of these things. And with a team like the Sonics, it's a lot easier because these teams are paid a salary to do those things. I understand at the end of the day, probably there are other, like things like streaming probably supplement a massive part of an NA Siege team's like salary. They probably don't make the most amount of money. Like they even talk about that they don't make the most amount of money and stuff like that. But still, like, with a game like Siege, to be the best, you have to dedicate so much time to this game. Like you have to know everything about anything about this game, and you have to be on your shit, and you have to know everything about the enemy team and what they're doing, and everything about different interactions with the game and the maps and literally everything. And then on top of that, you have to have the greatest mindset going in on game day to be able to win the game. And so I think, probably what Super is looking for is just that team that has that mindset, that they are like, hey, we stay, like, look at with SSG. I forget what event this was. Probably, I don't even know how long ago this was. But at one point, I don't know if they got knocked out, like, of the LAN, or if they won an event at the LAN, or if they won the entire LAN. Maybe this was a 6 invitational. I don't even remember what it was. But there was something where one of those things happened. They either won or they lost. And like immediately after, I think it was like Rampy was in a ranked game, like on stage in a ranked game immediately after playing to like practice and get better. And he just played ranked like in that position, like for the rest of the night or something like that. That's what the tweet said, or something along those lines. So like, that's the kind of dedication that a pro team is looking for. And if that was an event that they lost, look at where that got them, right? That's the kind of dedication that won them the invitational. So that's probably something that's Super's not dumb, right? If anybody watched that 6on6 podcast, like the one thing that I took away from that is Super is an absolute genius. That guy is so smart. And I think that it's just, when you have somebody like that who has the dedication and they know what they're looking for, and they have people and Super's an IGL, right? So if he has people that he can trust that are as dedicated, if not more dedicated than he is, and he's already giving it his 100%, that's what his team needs. And I understand where teams come from, especially when money's on the line, when orgs are on the line, when, multiple people probably work for that company. So there are a lot of people on the Sonics payroll that their jobs are on the line for this and everything like that. So I think that's what they're looking for. And I hope this is who they found, right? They have players, even on the 6on6 podcast, they said that they wanted to try out Rexin, and they did try out Rexin for like a couple rounds of one map, and a player on the Sonics was being a complete asshole to him or something, like super passive aggressive and shit. Yeah, someone was being super disrespectful. So that's the thing, is like, why would you want to play with somebody like that? And the Sonics are looking at it like, hey, this is a business. Like, what the fuck? Why do we want someone on our team that is like that? Like, we're just trying to trial a player. Like, we don't need these egos clashing. We don't need these things. We need people that are here. They could wipe, when they get on the team, they wipe everything. Right? They wipe everything, and they are here to play the game, and their teammates are now their brothers, and this is what it is. Like, and that's how you win. Like, that's what they need.
Yeah, so so here's the thing. Like, I understand like that part of it, but like if you look at like the performance like part of it, Super was the lowest rated player in the team. I think he had like a 0.85 rating. If you look at like, I honestly don't know if he's like that like amazing of a player. Like, I think there's better players than he is. Like, I truly believe like those 4 players wanted him gone. Like, I think they wanted him dropped, and I think they wanted a different leader. And I think that's where that clash with the org. Like, I think there's 2 sides to every story. So Super came and he talked about it. I think that once the NDA or whatever is like lifted or something, and they can actually like are free to talk about it, like the Sonics players, I think we'll hear different stories. I think they will like not talk about like the. I don't think it's the mindset. Like they're pros. Like Easily has been a pro for years. Like he's just like one of the best like support pros like ever. He's just
I agree
amazing.
with that
But
100%.
like, but like, so like the fact to say that he wasn't dedicated to be a pro, like I don't know if that's true. I really don't know if that's true. Like, I
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
nobody really knows what's in their head, you know. I guess at the end of the day, I guess it's always going to be he said, she said. But
I think if you just look at it, Easley's been in the scene for like 5 years, and like now his streaming career is making him like one of the
mm-hmm.
biggest Rainbow streamers. So like he was dedicated at some point and for a while, and he is to this date one of my favorite support players and definitely one of the best. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Easley wanted to take the streaming path because he's getting burnt out on playing comp.
I was actually just going to say that exact same thing, right? You look at all the players, even in the T3 scene. Look at yourselves, probably like a year ago when this game was in like the shittiest state. Like utility meta was like just kind of starting to become a thing, if not been around for just like a little bit. That it was starting to wear thin, and Ubisoft was making the shittiest decisions, and I wouldn't say shittiest decisions, right? Because they were making some poor decisions, and there were some things that were probably out of their control, like COVID related things that were affecting certain things. But, you know, at least things game design ways, it seemed like they were really straying away from what like the vision of the game was. Or, I mean, hey, it's different, right? Because obviously the devs have their own vision of the game, which differs from like the higher level players and stuff like that. But, you know, still like from what the game originally was and stuff like that, straying to this boring utility meta, not fun to watch, everything like that. You know, so players were getting burnt out. Everyone's getting burnt out. And you take these players that have been playing since the game's been around, pros for 4 or 5 years now. You know, they probably Easily is probably like, damn, I make the same amount of money, if not more money, streaming right now, and I'm just on the upward trajectory. Like, I just at this point I'm just playing the game competitively to play the game, like, you know. And again, who knows what's going on in their heads? You never know at the end of the day, but I definitely agree with that. That burnout is probably so real for so many pro players. I mean, look at Pengu. Pengu even said that he wanted to stop playing. When Fabian left, Pengu wanted to leave, and then G2 was like, "You can't, please, like, please don't leave." And he was like, "All right, like, whatever." And they were like, you know, if you could, they basically offered, like, made him a huge offer to just stay. So like, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, going back to like different perspectives, you have the player, like the high pro player perspective of the game, and then you have the dev perspective. Because if you think back, like year one, the devs wanted to make this a realistic shooter, and if you look at it now, you have Yana who can duplicate herself. Like, it's gone far from the original vision of the game. It's more of like we're because there's a bridge that's just been broken between Ubisoft developers and actually my mic and like pro players. If we get that bridge, and there's messages going back and forth, and the devs are talking to the pro players more, which they are, which is good, and we're getting more changes like Neon Dawn to the meta that are helping the comp community, then I feel like the game would be so much better. And it is getting better from, like you said, Bob, from last year. Like the game has gotten so much better, especially with this Neon Dawn patch. Like the
Oh
meta's
yeah.
better. Like it's no more sit behind a shield for 3 minutes.
Mhm.
It's probably why Aerial Arise was so successful, because you don't have to sit behind a shield for the entire round. You can go out and use your gun skill. You can be more flexible with attacker line. I just want to see Ubisoft be more communicative to the pro players.
If anyone watched our podcast with Braxton, that's kind of what he said, like your aerial arise thing. If you once you can't sit behind a shield and 3 ADSs and 5 Womais. Okay, my sound just cut out. Wait, can one of you say something?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, we're good. All right.
Good.
So if you can't sit behind a shield with 3 ADSs, 5 Womais, and whatever the hell else you can put up, it's kind of going to expose the players who aren't so talented and just know how to abuse the meta. Which, I mean, you should be able to know how to use utility, but at some point it goes from using to abusing. And I think now we're actually going to see like the really talented players come up and be able to show like what they can actually do in game. So it'll be good.
Yeah, I think So we did talk about this a lot with Braxton about the meta. I think I do agree that Neon Dawn is in a great like spot for the game. There's a lot less cheaters. But, like that's also because cheaters like come in like ebbs and flows. They are it's kind of like a cycle. Like there's gonna be like up times and down times, and right now we're in a downtime, so Siege is just feeling amazing to me at least. But I think I think Ubisoft's like direction with the game, I kind of like it. I I can't control Ubisoft, so like whatever they do, I'm still gonna play the game.
Yeah.
But I still I still like I don't know how to explain it. Like I think that the the game should be made like it should be completely balanced around competitive play because we mentioned this like time and time again. A competitively balanced game is also balanced for the casual community. Like the casual community does not give a shit whether or not Maya is a shield or not. They really don't. Like they're not gonna be abusing bullet holes or anything like that.
Yeah, a prime
It's just
example of that is within Valorant. Like, their game is mostly balanced around competitive play, and the casual players they don't care. Like, they're playing the game to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like a thing I think, and I think this is like a big thing that Ubisoft is. If they're, I would think that they're starting to figure it out, right? Because you look at with all of the horrible meta that we were in, the player base was dropping, and you see like the godly noob tweeted out all the time. I'm pretty sure
I hate
Pengu
that
always
guy.
kind of talks about it as well. Yeah, you know what? Whether I'm not the best, hey, whatever you think about him, etc. But at least what he is like tweeting out and everything like that, it still shows something, right? The player base is falling. I think that it does have a lot to do with a lot of people speaking negatively about the game, the game being in a sorry state. So I think Ubisoft is starting to see like, hey, even if what we think is good for the casual community, like if we're listening to them, and it makes the game not fun and it makes the game broken, then those casuals are just gonna be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna stop playing because like they have no tie to the game, not like us. Like I'm addicted to the game, right? Like I can't, like all of us here, like we're in it for life basically with Siege. Like we can't stop. Like it's so it's, I mean, there's no feeling like playing Siege with a coordinated 5-stack and stuff like that. It's literally like one of the greatest feelings in the world.
I've been saying this more and more recently. Siege is like crack without any of the fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's the thing, right? You look at everybody that's like tweeting it out, right? And whether they're jokes or not, like always like the token joke is like, I hate Siege, but it's like my favorite game of all time, or it's like the greatest game ever made or something like that. Like it is because like even at the end of the day, like the core game of Siege is still so much fun. It is super rewarding. It is unlike any other game out there. But I think that's like Ubisoft is seeing, and I hope that they really start to realize this is like probably it's tough, right? Because you have Ubi's dev team, then you have their esports team. I mean, again, just like any other company, you have so many divisions at Ubisoft, and then you have their corporate division who is looking at just money and stuff like that. So much of the game's money is made on console. So many of the players are gold and below and stuff like that. So like, all of us, we are just like the tiniest voice in all of the players. But I think the general player base failing is just because the game is no longer fun. It's not, or it wasn't fun, right? I think players are going to be on the rise now more than they were before. But I think casual players are around for like the cool skins, the funky stuff, like maybe the fun game modes. Like if you added in a TDM mode and a more robust T-Hunt mode, like things like that. Like you look at Valorant. I think Valorant is like the perfect example. It's a company that knows exactly what they're doing, what they want to do, right? What do they have for casuals? Spike Rush. Spike Rush is the perfect example.
It's so much fun.
Imagine if Siege had a mode. Have you guys ever played with somebody that's never played Siege before? It's impossible. Like when I look at someone that's never played the game before, I'm like, how the hell can somebody that's never played this game possibly learn the game enough to even start having fun? I don't understand that at all.
It
Like,
is so hard because everyone's
it is
just running
so
around with
hard.
like a G8 and casual, and you
Yes.
can't do anything
Yeah.
about it.
And think about all the characters and what they do. You run through a door, an explosion goes off. All of a sudden, you're stunned, and then you just die immediately, and you're like, "What the fuck just happened?" But it was a Capcan trap, then an Elamine. Like, I know what it is. I know exactly what's going on. But they run in and they're like, "What the fuck is happening?" Like,
Yeah.
so like I think what if there was a game mode, right, where it's all just vanilla year one operators, and it was, or not even year one, like just baseline operators. What was it, 8 recruits only or something? And but I think it would be best like if it's like, hey, like similar to how you have the newcomer mode. Imagine if there was something that's like, hey, like you could literally play this mode whenever you want, but it's just like vanilla mode for new players. Or even if that is what beginner mode becomes. I think Ubisoft is going to hopefully evolve on all of these things that they've implemented already, but it takes some time. That's something, patience has to be a big thing. But like, like I think there should be a mode where it's just stripped down of everything. None of the like Lion, like think about all the operators that are just not like standard when the game came out. If you took all that stuff out and just allowed people to play the game like that, it'd be so much easier to learn. I think like there are just decisions that could be made for the casual community a little bit better, like better skins. Obviously that's like a huge debate and stuff like that, is a lot of the skins are not the best. The 3D skins that they're coming out with, though, are super sick. I think that's something that's going to bring players in, but throw those in the alpha packs and stuff like that, make a shit ton of them, just pump them out or something like that.
Yeah, like for example, like I really am terrible at Valorant. I kind of hate the game, to be honest with you, but like I can see like their skins are really good.
Oh my
Like
god.
their cosmetics are just like so beyond sieges, and I mean, like I'm not gonna play. Like I really don't like Valorant. I'm horrible at it, but just like I can still like appreciate. I can appreciate that their dev team, like they know what the player base wants. Like Siege came out with that TDM mode, what, year 5 season 3?
And it was
That
so
was the
bad.
first. Yeah, it was terrible. Like it
and
was
it was,
not
I
fun.
did
I'm
not
not
like
even.
it at all. I
I
hated it.
hated it. It
I
was way
hated
too
it so
big.
much.
Absolutely.
I
Everyone
hated it.
camped. It was way too big. Everyone camped.
I know.
It
I
was
hated
terrible. It was terrible. So like they like this, it was bad. It was just bad. But it was.
But it's funny though, right? That's probably coming from like a super competitive perspective, right? I would love to have somebody on the show that's like a gold with like 100 hours in the game or something like that, and what they thought about the game or something, you know what I mean? Like what they thought about the game mode, because maybe they were like, oh, that was the sickest game mode, like that was so much fun.
Oh,
Like
I
all this
guarantee you those motherfuckers who were like sitting in the middle building and just peeking you and everything were having the time of their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
It was not fun for me. I do think I think like when it comes to like quality of life improvements, I think Ubisoft's doing a good job. I kind of like the direction they're taking. Like they are releasing like this Ubisoft stuff. Like I mean, like we all know the Ubisoft Connect, like the infamous Ubisoft Connect, like the overlays dog shit. But like it's not like it's bad. Like it's worse than the other one. But like it's also because the other one was like what everyone's used to. Nobody really likes changes that are like not necessary. But like the Ubisoft Connect could like end up being great for like console players wanting to switch over to PC. I know a lot of arguments for like I play console. I've been playing console for 5 years. I have Glacier on console. I don't want to switch to PC. Like this Ubisoft Connect, like you could end up getting your skins like on PC, which is and your account and all your stuff like on PC, which would be nice for them at least. I think so. Like just these like quality of life improvements. Like like they're patching bullet holes. They're patching like ember eyes or whatever. They're making like uniforms like easier to spot. I think they're making it like greener or something. But so I kind of like what Ubisoft's doing with that. It's more like the problem that I see with Ubisoft is kind of how they're managing the pro situation, like especially in NA. I don't watch EU or LATAM anymore. I used to watch it when I was like a gold plat player, but I don't really watch it anymore. I kind of only watch NAL and like Challenge League. I don't like NA Challenge League. I don't really watch I watch some Canadian. I don't really watch any EU anymore. So like um I think like the way they're handling the NA situation, like the LAN League, I don't know, like I feel like it's helping a lot of play. I feel like it's helping TSM, DZ, OXG, and SSG, and then the other teams, it's kind of fucking them over. Like especially United Tempo. It fucked over DG, or not DG, EG. It fucked over um, LG. Like it was really not.
It's it's
It's like it. I don't even know if it's a moneymaker. Like I know the players want to play on LAN, but then again, like I don't like understand why you have to have an org. Like I don't get that. I really
it's
don't understand
because
that.
you can't just expect people to fund their own housing. Like you have to
Mm-hmm.
pay for people to fly out, to pay for their own food, to make like if they're not making a salary, they're basically paying out of pocket to live in a house. So they're losing money unless they are a top performer in the league. So that's why if an org's backing them, then
No, I
it's
understand
possible
why they
for them to
need an
live
org.
there.
I understand why they need an org, but like the fact that like Ubisoft is like orgs aren't wanting to come into Siege anymore. Like it's I don't see what's the benefit in coming into Siege.
I mean, at the moment, there really isn't one. I think that that's like a big thing that Ubisoft has to work on their esports side and their decisions on that end, right? Like a large part of that is like the pilot program and stuff like that. Putting
Yeah.
like every NA team should be T1, like every EU team should be T1. Like, and again, though, I know how they were like, oh, there's like only a certain amount of charms or whatever, and like teams can be classified as T1, then like rework the structure of whatever that looks like or something like that, right? Because like especially when there's someone that goes on LAN, I think like yeah, again, like I could just regurgitate a lot of stuff that like a lot of the other pro players and stuff like that have said if no one here has heard that, but yeah, like a lot of it is just like the benefits of LAN League and stuff are like all the content that comes out of it and everything like that. And like Saad was saying, you can't really go to LAN without an org because then you're trying to participate in, like I was saying, how much time you have to dedicate to the game. You need an org that's paying you and housing you and feeding you and all that kind of stuff as well.
It's kind of weeding out like just the bad teams. But I think also it's really, really bad timing with COVID and everything
Horrible
because they were
timing.
never able to actually switch and move to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think
COVID,
that was what was handled really poorly, and that's where I agree with you, Sam. Is that it's like they could have allowed those teams to play online with no
Uh-huh.
org or something, you know what I mean? And then give
Yeah.
them all this time to, but I think it's like, okay, like, hey, it's in the rules. Like, I don't know. Like, oh, like, I think it was just a lot of like, who know, I don't even know. And like, and then the orgs were just kind of like thinking about getting out of the game for forever and stuff like that. So,
they should at either give some leeway to teams with the pandemic because you can't just be.
mm-hmm.
This is something that you can't just be a stickler to rules for because it's like unprecedented. You didn't make your rules knowing that there would be a virus hitting the entire world. So like you either loosen up and let them have no be orgless for a bit until this pandemic rolls over, and then at that point you can be like, well, you don't have an org and that's on you. You've had like this entire time. Or they allow for lower tier orgs to come in and make a name for themselves and support their teams like OXG did.
And
And
like disrupt.
yeah, OXG Disrupt, they let teams like that come in and make a name for themselves, and as long as they're willing to support them, it works. And I think teams were more if there was more access to the pilot program, like imagine if every team had a skin. You know how much like there's
Mm-hmm.
every team has fans. If every team had their own like uniform and headgear and gun skin and charm, you'd see a lot more people like just going towards the pilot program and supporting their team.
Plus, you have just the people that collect all the skins. Like, people will
Yeah,
literally just buy all of them. Like, they don't care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I think that I agree with you. Like, I think there's just so much that could be done. Like, and it's tough, right? Because, again, a lot of it's just business. So, like, what can you say at the end of the day on Ubisoft's end? But still, I think there's, like, a lot that can be done to just incentivize orgs more. You know what I mean? Like, the best of three is super awesome. It gives you the most competitive stuff, but no one's watching them, right? People will watch them in VODs over, like, the game just takes so long, and that's where the issue comes in. So like if it was like EU where it was all best of ones and stuff like that, people want to watch maybe best of threes at larger events. Well, then give us more larger events or something. Like I just look at the data, look at what's going on, and work around that, because like no one wants to watch the long game, so you need viewership. But the LAN League would be sick, right? Imagine all the content imagine E United if the LAN League actually happened, and you would have like Yeti and Alfalma. Like that whole bromance would be on land. Like if everyone's there playing like their matches, like all there together. Like the shit talking would be so insane. Like it would actually just be the coolest produced stuff. Like every org would be able to be pumping content out about their team, and then like this is like perfect world, right? And this is probably what Ubisoft saw as being what was going to happen, and they were like, oh, this is all that's going on, and like this everyone's going to have a charm coming out, like, but then it's like staggered, which is maybe like not the like Dark Zero's stuff is not out yet and stuff like that. Like that kind of doesn't make sense to me, and might not be out till the end of the year, which is rough for them. So
Hopefully this
I'm
season.
pretty sure it's coming out this season. Yeah,
oh,
because
nice, that's good for them
I
then.
know it actually know it is because I know that there are people playing with it like in game and like they
On my
the
Twitter.
cheaters the cheaters that
Yeah.
use it, they can only use like if they have that sort of agent, they can only use skins that are like coded into the game like for this season. So they can't use anything that's gonna I'm almost positive it'll come out this season. And but the thing is, like with this season, like the season won't end until like February, like when the invitational is. So like we have a long way still in the season. Like the season like is quite new. So I do think it'll come out like before the invitational. So I think it'll come out in January. That's my
Usually the
guess.
way they roll out pilot program is they give it a couple weeks on the season, so we'll probably get it in December at some point.
When
But
did the season start? November or December?
December.
December. Okay. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll come out. I mean, it's already December 13th, so it'll take a little bit.
I think it's also to keep important, like back to like the orgs and like the problem with Siege, like there's there's a lot of orgs that like you can tell like they've mishandled a lot of things, and I think COVID is really like showing that some orgs did not really have a good idea of what they've been doing, and like COVID's kind of like been revealing it because like you see big orgs like TSM and SSG, like they're able to take the hits because they've managed their resources pretty well, and like the orgs that have mismanaged are also the orgs that have kind of dropped out, like with the exception of like EG, who like just did not want to support a LAN league, which makes sense. They want their players to live with them. That's their ideological choice.
Yeah. Adding that, I feel like a lot of orgs or players, to some extent, blame a lot of their problems on COVID, and to an extent, you can do that. Like, for example, Ubisoft can blame there not being a LAN league due to COVID, which is 100% reasonable, but at some point, you need to realize as an org manager, as an org owner, whatever, that maybe it's not COVID that's causing these problems. Maybe it's your org. Maybe it's your decisions that are causing you to not do well in Siege or something of that sort. Like I've like a lot of during the pandemic, there's so many things that are being blamed on COVID that maybe shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, also if you look at the teams, the top four teams, they're not losing org backing. It's like I think it's also gonna push for orgs to look for teams that are more like hungrier, kind of like Sonics is doing, and teams that are going to go and take that top four spot, because it looks like the teams that are actually doing something aren't getting dropped. So like it's kind of like also fire for the or like fuel for the fire, where if you're not succeeding, like this is esports, like you can lose your job like that, and
Yeah.
that's too bad.
Job security in esports is really rough. And the way I see it, like running an org in esports, depending on the esport, but I'd say in Siege, let's just Siege as an example. I think that um, unless you're like TSM or like, and you're like a top team, or you're like G2 and you're winning, because you're not really G2 anymore, but like if you're not winning, like if you're like a org and you're like supplying like chaos, for example, like you're always middle of the road, I would say you're probably losing money. You're probably only doing it because like you either love like this like just esports in general and you want the scene to succeed. Like if I had $1 billion, for example, I would buy an esports team. Like like a siege team. Like I would give rent free an org. Like I would give somebody an org. Like I would help them out because I really want the scene to succeed. I don't want like if rent free can't find an org, like I don't even know what's gonna happen. Like, I think that they're in like talks with the orgs, but I don't know what's gonna happen. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I hope that they're in talks with the org. I'm pretty sure they are, but like the fact that they need to find an org and have to convince an org, like let's say an org knows nothing about Siege, try and pitch to an org that knows nothing about Siege why they need to buy you a house in Vegas and pay for you to live there so that you can play in Pro League.
Yeah.
And how they're gonna make money doing that. Like, explain it to me. Like, I think the pilot program needs to be better.
If you
Yeah,
I think it needs-
Go ahead.
I'm gonna
Oh.
say something else, so you do that.
Oh, sure. I was gonna say, like, this kind of even ties back to what Natural was saying, right? Is like you look at, like, so Natural was talking about the COVID kind of bringing out a lot of bad like decisions made pre-COVID, but I think there are a lot of things also that happened that are bad decisions post-COVID, right? Like, look at like the format that NAL played under. It was literally just like a mass, like the whole season was just a huge GSL bracket. Like that in a time where orgs are really struggling and like all of them are struggling, and you need them to be able to have like content, and eyes need to be on the org, and the game needs to be digestible for them to just not pivot. And I understand to a point where it's like, hey, things are probably signed. This is like this was the format that we were going to play under, but I'm sure that every single org and everybody involved and stuff like that would have been able to been like, hey, last minute, because of COVID, we're changing the format or something like that, because we want to get eyes on every player. We want you guys to be able to pump out more content. And then if like, right, I get a lot of it is all just hindsight 2020, right? Because like this is like, oh, this happened, and it's like maybe if you were there in the scenario, the decisions that had to be made were a lot different and everything like that. But like, it's easy for us to say like, oh, that should have happened, and then oh, they should have changed the way that the pilot program works, and like, I mean, I hope that somebody at Ubisoft is looking at that and saying, okay, this is all the stuff we could learn from all the things that we tried to implement and how it went and what happened from it, and how we can move forward in a positive way.
Yeah, we don't get to see teams play enough
at all. And when's the next time they get to play?
After
March,
invite,
right?
After invite. If they didn't
like
make it to
4
invite,
months.
they play after invite.
Yeah, like I don't think Sonics is playing in Pro League until March or
No,
whatever.
until-
That's insane.
there's
That's crazy.
the post-invite downtime. There's too much
Yeah.
down. Like we only get like 4 weeks, and then we take like a month break for the major, and then
There's
we get
like
4
no
more weeks.
siege for like 4 months. Like what? Like that's ridiculous. Like no
There
North
needs to be
American
some
siege
sort
for.
of like.
And imagine the last 6
what's
months,
the-
there was like no siege at all.
We
Like
got
it feels
what's
like there
that-
was
two
no
siege-
siege.
two stages.
What's that one land called? Like OGA? Is that it?
OGA, yeah.
Okay.
Like that was before, and like there was the NA. What was that?
We had
like,
Dream
NA,
Hacks. We had OGA.
USN, right? USN.
Yeah,
Like
US
the US
Nationals, yeah.
What happened
US
to USN?
Nationals.
Did it get canceled?
I certainly hope it doesn't get canceled. Like we already had the major on LAN.
They
I
haven't
just have
done
another-
quals this year, so I think it is canceled.
It's probably canceled because we're just doing like the North, like it's just like the in-region major makes sense to me, right? Because like that was just an in-region minor, and so like people within the same region always play each other, so they don't care. Like they don't want to play an in-region major. When they have the major, they want international. You know what I mean? They are constantly foaming at the mouth for international play. So
Yeah, and I mean, with COVID, like you could say it's getting better because of the vaccine, but in reality, it's really not. Like there's been like a lot of deaths recently. Like people are starting to get sick of it, and they're starting to get sick of trying to quarantine. They're getting sick of all of that. So just like the number of people are gonna start like going out more. They're sick of like COVID. They think it's not a big deal anymore, but it still is like affecting everyone every day a lot. So
There's
I
still
think
a lot
just-
to go through.
yeah, and I think that making invite audience free is a great idea. I think like number one, how many viewers do you think it'll get? I think it'll get like How many does it normally get? Like when the streaming invite? How many do
Invite
you
like
get?
50
I want to
plus.
say like 50K is what I
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
gonna think too.
50K. I
Yeah.
think it'll probably get like maybe 70. Like
You
I think,
think?
yeah,
You
I
think
think
if they
Siege.
went international? Interesting.
I mean,
Interesting.
Well,
if they
I
go
think Siege
this,
is just. I think Siege is just like. I think it's getting better. I think like with the new meta, I think it's gonna be more enjoyable to
Yeah.
watch. I think it used to like really kind of suck. I mean, like, I mean, we never saw invite with the utility meta,
I think
but
people are gonna kind of forget that like CG sports is even a thing. This is like that's kind of like the problem with the
That's what I kind of
formatting.
think is going to happen. You know what I
Like,
mean? No matter what happens with the invite, if it's the sickest format, they pump it out to the 9. Like, since this stage 1 and stage 2, there was like no siege that was played. Like, they played a couple matches over the course of the last like 6 months. They played a couple best of threes, and then we had the North American major, and now the invites in like 2 months. Like,
I mean, if you think about it, since COVID hit, we have had maybe 8 weeks of actual siege because COVID hit and they canceled the finals in Brazil
oh,
or
Brazil,
whatever.
yeah.
And after that, they're like, all right, we're just going to wait until the NAL. We didn't have anything this summer. And then in August, or they started stage one, I think. And then they didn't keep any. And then we haven't
and at
done.
that time, they weren't even advertising it.
Yeah, we had.
you
So,
know,
like, that didn't get many viewership. So, like, stage two got more viewers, and the November major got more. But, like, those are the only maybe 6 weeks of actual C's this entire year. Like,
That's crazy.
that's, like, bad.
Non-existent esports at all, like non-existent.
yeah.
And I mean, I was gonna say this earlier, like esports, just like the teams, like they're not the orgs aren't in esports for the teams prize pools. Like it is nice, like when
Hmm.
SSG wins $3 million or whatever, but they're not in it for the prize pools. They're in it to get fans, for content creators,
Yep.
for merch, for like all of that extra stuff that having a team brings you. So like they have teams for exposure so that they can have all of their outside stuff come in. So like orgs aren't investing in teams that are like just middle of the pack for like or like just for prize pool. They're investing in teams with like Bolo on it or with Easily on it. Like they're investing for exposure and
Yeah, you
for
say
just
you bring up
merch.
easily, but he got dropped, so
I
eh,
mean,
I don't know.
there's like an ideological difference on Sonics that make you can't blame the org for not agreeing with the player, even if that's not the
We
best
don't
like
even know
money
what that
move.
ideological difference is. Like, it could be that everyone on Sonics wanted Super gone, and the Sonics didn't agree with it. Like, we don't know.
I
Like,
mean, if that is the case, then that's Sonics' decision. Then I don't think
yeah,
Sonics is
it
gonna
is
make
true.
a stupid business decision just because
Yeah,
they like Super more than they like the other players. They're gonna make a
that's
decision that's best for the company.
that's kind of another issue I have with orgs. It's also the same thing with like T3 even. Like an org keeps a spot in the league, not the players. But like without the players, like is it even the org? Like Sonics, like I don't even know how they got like around the. Isn't there like a 3/5 rule or
There's no
2/5 rule?
rule.
Or,
No,
there's
there's
no
no
rule.
rule. The spot is
Yeah,
owned by the
the
org.
spot is owned by the org. Yeah,
That's
that's
that's why the players are getting dropped because their
yeah.
orgs are
I don't
leaving.
really like that. I really feel like it should be.
It is bad for the players, sure, but like you can't fault the org for how the league is formatted. And if they genuinely believe they'll have more success with another team, you can't fault them.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sucks to be
Alright.
easily Sleb and Gomfy and iconic. It fucking sucks. You
Yeah, like
lose your
I'll give
job,
my opinion. I
but it's
really
like
think the new Sonics are not gonna be good. I really don't think they're gonna be good. Super Dream, like Grixer, three-peat players that like are not standout amazing players. Like I'm sorry, I really don't think that they're gonna be like. I just really don't think they're gonna be good. Like Rexon and Creators, yeah, sure they're really good gun skill players. They were great fraggers for their teams. I don't really see them being good. I really think that easily Gomfy, Slebin, and Iconic were just a lot better.
I mean, we'll see in close calls for the Invitational. I'm pretty sure most of their games are being casted by community casters.
Yeah.
So
If you look
Yeah.
at it though, like Sleben and Gomfy were like middle of the pack players when they were in EU too. It's not like they were like number one players. They were
Comfy's pretty good.
both on ends, and Sleben's like has a history of being inconsistent, and Gomfy has a history of being like decently good, but like still not like a top player. Like iconic and easily like that's more of an argument, but the Europeans, they haven't been giving much other than just like being in the scene. It's kind of
Oh
like
yeah,
the chaos of the situation. Like they're just in the middle of the pack. They're there, but they're not like making waves.
yeah. I mean, I don't really think. But then again, like Slevin and Comfy, like they have the chemistry. Like they these guys have been a team for like a year. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I personally don't think that they're gonna be good. I think that they would have had more success with the other Sonics team. Like even if they dropped Super, they would have been better. But that's just my opinion. I honestly don't know, but like that's just my opinion. Like just from what I know now, and just from the teams like on paper, that's just what I see. But maybe it'll work. I don't know. I hope it works. Wish the best of luck to Sonics, and best of luck to Rent Free. And like, does anybody know like what happens to Tempo Spot? Like, who gets it?
Whoever finds an org first.
Like any group of 5 people could find an org and have that
I
spot.
mean, if an org approaches Yubi and they
That's
say,
what's gonna happen.
let
yeah.
us buy in,
Can we buy in?
like it's kind of like Disrupt
So
and
technically,
Sonics
Black
did.
Mamba Esports could approach Ubisoft and
Yeah.
tell them
If
that
they
is
had a
ridiculous.
shit ton of money,
If
yes.
they have like
That
the
is
$1 million
ridiculous.
or whatever the buy-in
Yeah.
is for the league,
I'm
yeah,
not trying to say anything, but I would love to see JV Sutton.dd absolutely running it up in T1.
Digital
Just
Dynasty
saying.
buys into, like, oh my god.
We should just have every T3 org pitch in together some money
we'll make a
and just
super
be
T3 org.
yeah, the teeth. It'll just be called like the T3 something like Undertakers or something, the gatekeeper or something. But
Buy into NAO. Oh my god.
yep.
And then the jersey has every team's logo.
There's just too much gray area when it comes to stuff like that. It's just
They're like theoretically, like if anyone has the money, they can just go and buy the spot and put up a team of silvers if they want. Like it doesn't matter. They put up whoever the hell they want as long as there's an org backing.
Yeah,
That's
I mean the
crazy.
idea for them though is that they want to try to make money.
Yeah,
so
you
they
want to
don't-
succeed, but
So while yes, that is true, like yeah, I mean they're obviously trying to buy in at $1 million or whatever. I don't know what $1 million.
I don't know
Obviously,
buy-in.
that's filler. We don't know what that is. What that means, but yeah, I mean I think like the biggest issue that they are is it's like a hybridized like franchise league with a relegation, which is like why no one wants to buy in because there should just be no relegation, which then. Like it's like a revolutionary they have to like massively change the structure, right? Because if they went like full franchise, remove the relegation, then they would have to field academy teams, and Challenger League would just be like SSG Academy versus Sonic's Academy. And like I mean I think that's like the best way of going about it, because again you have to be good at Siege. Like you take any of the Challenger League teams, top Challenger League teams, they could be like, yeah, they're so good, but you put them against like any Pro League team, top 4 Pro League, like they're so smoked that no chance. Like any team against top 4 Pro League, no chance, because they're top 4, so they have the backing, they have the funds, they have like the psychological coaches, the physical training, like the best IGLs, like literally the best players, like anything there are just fully set up for success. So like to be able to compete with people like that are completely set up for success and then practice like however many hours out of the day, like 12 plus hours they're playing Siege, with like 6 to 8 of those hours being like dedicated practice time. Like you cannot compete against that unless you are salaried, work like you're on an academy team, somehow being salaried so that you can practice and play under those circumstances and interchange with like the full roster and stuff like that in practice, so you like gain that experience to be able to be a better player.
Although COD doesn't have like that T2 like big T2 scene with like academy teams and stuff, I think COD does like esports best with the way they franchised. Their events are sick. Like, I mean, the opening event that they had last year, it was like the most fun. Like, I don't even watch COD esports, but I watched this year, and it was fun to watch. It was hype, and like it was like watching an invitational for Siege, watching the opening. And like it was so much fun to watch. And they have the orgs and they have the content down, they have the merch down, they have everything down in COD because CDL knows what they're doing and they've done it well. And they rebranded around the same, or they redid it around the same time Siege redid their stuff. And CDL's just miles ahead because they had better planning and everything. And you don't see orgs dropping out of COD left and right because COD has their plan thought out well. So if Siege follows more of a Call of Duty model, I think it'd be pretty cool. And they don't have relegations either. So, just saying.
Yeah. If Siege took a lot of things from other games, I feel like they'd be better off. Like if they took things from CS:GO when it comes to production standpoints, if they took bracket formatting from COD, if they took just anything from other games that are more successful from them when it comes to an esports standpoint, they would lift themselves higher. But
And Valorant is like the case in point of people picking that
Yeah.
up, right? I mean, they're just the ones that they're like, oh, hey, this company did this really well. This game does this really well. This game does this really well. And this company does this really well. Let's just take all this stuff that everyone does really well and we'll we'll put it all into one product. And who would have thought it does really well? Like, who would have thought?
Exactly.
And CSGO is like so much fun to watch because you can pick who you want to watch when you're watching the stream on Twitch. You can look at the scoreboard whenever you want, and like it's way better for the viewer because they like if I want to watch Bolo and only Bolo, I can sit there and watch Bolo's perspective the entire round if I want. And like things like that, like it brings more viewers instead of just sitting at the top view from the shitty NAL broadcast or whatever, and him just watching people fight from above and spectating the smoke on site instead of the guy running out. Like, the production could get much better if they follow more of a CSGO or a Valorant model, and yeah, there's so many things that they could learn from other games.
I agree. I hope that they actually do that. That is like, I think that's everybody's hope, is that they just kind of like everybody wants Siege to be the best game because it already is the best game, right? It's but like it can be so much better, which is still like the thing. So I think that's like everybody just wants it to be the best. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of different production standpoints for closed SI quals, because I know Crater was doing something. He does CCS, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He does production for CCS. He made a whole new
He's phenomenal, by the way.
Yeah,
he's incredibly talented, man.
And he made like a whole new overlay for the quals, and I haven't seen it in action yet, but I'm really excited to see. Like he put a rough draft out on Twitter, and it looks so sick. It's just like so much better. And if extending on that, like if Ubisoft took ideas from people of the community, whether that is weapon skins, like charms, uniforms, headgears, whatever it be, like they'd have so much more that they could have in the game, that even like if you go back to skins, like the casual community would want to see like a sick Norango skin that I don't know, like Tyro made on Twitter. Like just if Ubisoft took more of community ideas and try to make them and implement them in the game, I think they'd be a lot better off.
I agree, because I think that's like, you look at where Siege came from, and Siege was a game dead on arrival. The only reason that it was actually successful is because of the community, like even more so like the competitive community that plays the game a shit ton and is like, yo, they're the ones that tell everybody this is the best game, like you should play this game, and those are the people that bring all the casuals into the game and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know.
I like, if you look at the communities, the Zoe Love skins, like those are like some of my favorite skins on some guns. Like you have the one on the P90, like they are sick. And if we get more skins like that, I mean, even if they're not just renowned and you spend R6 credits on it, you see a lot more people funding the game, and maybe the game, that's what the game needs, like some better funding to get it up. Speaking of, the Icy Cat charm comes out in 2 days, I think. make sure you get it.
I'm glad.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
glad they did that. That's.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
we've kind of exhausted a lot of our talking points, and unless there's anything someone wants to add.
Anybody? Natural? You got anything?
Nothing from me.
Bob, is there anything you want to say about if you want to talk more about your into that or the pro-am or whatever, your
Yeah.
invitational, if you want to talk more about that, we can close off with that and you can give yourself some more advertising.
No,
we
that's
can
all
telegraphs.
right. Yeah, I mean, I just yeah, no, I mean, appreciate everybody, you all having me on the show just to chat about things. Would love to come on again sometime. Yeah, I mean, it's I just think like the T3 scene and the scenes, like even the T2 scene, are very interesting. I think Siege, the game itself, is very interesting. I think the way to make it successful is, like I said, I think it's just a lot of community involvement, and I think that's where Ubisoft is lacking a little bit. But that's something that we're always open for. I always take feedback on formats and things like that for all of our events and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, that's like the biggest thing I think is like what is important to me within the community. And this is the stuff I guess that Ubisoft is sort of lacking on, right? I mean, this is stuff that we touched on all the time. And this like even goes back to the Challenger League and everything like that. And even further to the T3 scene and stuff like that is like, for Challenger League, no org wants to get involved in Challenger League because there is no stream and there's no, there's no production. Well, there is a stream actually, but it's not consistent. It's very much like
we get like one a week,
like Pro League. Yeah, and there's very little viewership. There's very low incentive for orgs to get into Challenger League and stuff like that. I think that's something where we're really pushing for with all of our events, is just trying to have as many of them streamed as possible, trying to get consistency up. I think that's really important. So again, like that's the stuff. Just trying to I think this is like what other Discord leagues do really well, right? Like your SCS, your RSA, your CC. I mean, CCS is on like another kind of level themselves, but even CCS and stuff like that. I think that the more organizers that we have running these small leagues and these tournaments, and you have a lot of people learning tons of things about production and running events and stuff like that. That's like the most important thing that we could have, is these just so, and more of them popping up, players running them themselves and stuff like that. Like we just need more buzz around the esports scene. We need more eyes on it. We need more players playing and everything like that, and I think that's where like the exposure is like the biggest thing. And, I'm very hopeful that Ubisoft kind of understands that and will push for the same thing as well. But yeah, that's all. I mean, that's the stuff that's important to me. I think that's important to everybody here when it comes to making the scene survive and sustainable. So
I think we've hit as low as we can probably go.
I agree with that.
So,
there's nowhere but up, right? I think that's really the kind of part that we're at.
And you can see that things are trajectory upwards. So hopefully UB does. They've taken our feedback and they've fixed Jaeger. They fixed Wamai. They fixed the in-game issues, and now they need to work on
100% agree.
the outside issues
Mm-hmm.
I
to
100%
build
agree.
the game up and give it a better base so that this game can hopefully last to that dream that they had to put in 100 operators.
Mm-hmm.
Back like 2 years ago at SI, they told us they want 100 operators. We're not even at 60 yet. So if we're gonna,
Crazy to think we're halfway though.
if we're gonna get to that point, they need to start listening to the community and really focus up, grind up.
And it's one operator like a season now, so they're
Until
hoping
they do rework.
they're saying 10 years. And you know what? I honestly think they can do it because there really is no other game like Siege.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally nothing. There's nothing like Siege. And
I would even like them to elongate that or whatever, maybe make it 15 years or Counter-Strike's been around for forever, right? Give us throw some Operation Healths in there after a couple seasons come out or something like that, always double back just to fix some stuff that's broken. But I think people will play Siege for forever as long as they continue working on it and stuff like that, right? It's just like Counter-Strike. Like, they don't have to rush for a Siege 2 or something. Siege 1 is perfectly fine if they just make it good enough. Like,
I'm a big fan of the year 5 model that they laid out for us, where
mhm.
they put out one operator, one rework, and hella core gameplay changes.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think Neon Dawn was a great patch for the
This
game.
season and last season, they brought about a lot of changes that were kind of like necessary, and like once again, like we've hit like the pit, and now it's just gonna trend upwards, and we'll get there, just with a lot of time.
I agree, though. I agree.
Neon Dawn, it makes me excited for what we're gonna see at Invitational for the year 6 roadmap, and how things are gonna change then, because that's 4 more operators.
Didn't we already get the year 6 roadmap like with last
We
season?
got the roadmap, but we haven't got like at Invite they do like the bigger reveals.
Yeah.
So like they showed us Tachanka at Invite and Oryx and Yana. It's crazy to think that was that long ago.
I know.
I remember you're in Invite. I had such a fun time at Invite.
I remember testing out New Oregon at like Invite. It was so much fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I loved Invite. It was like the best experience I've ever been. Like I'm gonna like once they open up lands again, I'm gonna like
The US
if
land
there's
will
one
be...
in the United. Yeah, the next one in the US I'm going to. Like I just had so much fun with it.
There's nothing like a LAN.
I've never been to a
And there's
LAN,
nothing
so-
like Siege.
They're the best.
It's
and
so
there's
much
nothing like
fun.
Siege, yeah.
Going to Atlanta is so much fun.
Okay, so Bob, thank you for coming onto the podcast. We've kind of like started to struggle a little bit with getting guests, but I think we'll
Yeah,
go on
hopefully
an
we
upward
get-
trajectory because we're not gonna have another podcast till January, when like all this Christmas stuff rolls over.
We might do me
I'm
and
not
Natural.
gonna. If you guys want to do
I
it,
know.
be my guest.
We'll discuss. But
But I won't be back till January, and it's been fun.
Yeah, Saad's leaving, but like, yeah. Oh, I mean, if we could get a good guest, I think I'd be down to do it. So we'll see. We will see.
We'll figure out the logistics, but it's been a good 4 months on the Sodcast. We've hit 12 episodes. We do skip some weekends, but I think this has been something that the community, even if like we don't get too many viewers, it's something that like
there's no harm in it.
We don't hurt anything, and we only help, I think. But thank you, Bob. It's been fun, and I really enjoyed seeing your perspective, and I look forward to your invitational in February.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
thank you, Natural, for filling Elias's spot and hopefully being
our next
the
host.
The third host.
Hey, hopefully you see me in January again.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, and that's us. We're out.